Hello and welcome to my basic starter Noah guide. So this is a guide for Noah for the beginning of the game up until I would say like chapter 2, chapter 3. This is kind of like a quick start, like first 15-20 hours of gameplay type of guide where I go over his abilities, the class's abilities that he is, which is sword fighter, and his general thing he wants to be doing, as well as some notes about some of the combat arts, some of the class skills, and so on. So Noah starts out as a sword fighter. So sword fighter is a damage class that's kind of like an assassin. So if we go to the if we go to the skills here, we can start to check out what his class is all about. So first skill, Sharp Eye, boosts Dexterity by 20%. So Dexterity is how accurate your attacks are. This game has an evasion and accuracy system, so you can miss attacks. I'm pretty sure agility is what determines that. Like, it's agility and dexterity kind of work against each other. Kind of similar to accuracy and evasion and triangle strategy. So this just makes you more accurate. That's all you need to know about this. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Then you have Covert Attack. Reduces aggro generated from attacks by 30%. So aggro is a stat where as you attack enemies and as you perform certain actions, they will be more or less likely to attack you. So enemies love to attack tanks because the tanks have things that increase aggro. They also love to attack things that are rezzing and healing. So kind of like tanks and healers tend to kind of be next to each other. The tanks trying to position themselves in between to kind of body block, but you're like as Noah, as his base class, you will be usually not even focused on at all. Enemies tend to ignore you. The reason this is useful is because he has attacks that he needs to hit. Like, he needs to hit things in the back, he needs to hit things in the sides. If they were focusing on you and like facing you, it'd be very awkward to reposition to behind them if they're rotating around facing you, so that's why he has that. Then you have Cypher Edge, boosts crit rate by 20%. So crits in this game, just random crits. It's good, for more damage. So it's a damage class, so, get behind things, increase your damage, increase your accuracy. And then Inspirit, boosts damage by 80% when fighting a unique monster or boss monster. So whenever you see like an enemy running around in the map that has like blue flames or like red flames next to its name, this will boost the damage that you deal to those monsters. So you could potentially, or if you switch this class, or switch off of it if it's not relevant. But this is a nice little thing to have. But most of these class skills are oriented towards damage. Pretty straightforward. All right, let's go over the arts. So I did test Shadow Eye, because I wanted to see its duration, because it doesn't tell you for whatever reason. But let's start with Shadow Eye. So this one boosts your attack damage. So it says it boosts your attack, which is your power, which is your damage. So it basically boosts your auto attack damage and your ability damage. It lasts for 15 to 20 seconds, roughly speaking. I actually used it in combat and checked to see when the attack buff disappears. It also halves aggro value. So if you find that enemies are attacking you too often, you can use this. But honestly, like on hard mode, the first couple chapters, this ability doesn't really do much for you. Maybe in the future, like maybe later on, it's more useful. Like if you want to drop aggro from something, you could use it. But there's better things to use. But that being said, it does at least it does improve your damage, which isn't bad. And then having the aggro, situationally useful, but not super useful. All right, next we have Sword Strike. This, I think, is your best ability, by far, because it has a relatively low cooldown, 26 seconds. I mean, that's a lot. If you play MMOs, that's a lot. Low cooldown in MMOs is like 5-10 seconds, stuff like that. So 26-second cooldown. It inflicts Break, which is the combo starter for Break, Topple, Daze, which is one of the first combos you have access to. There's also, what was the other one? Break, Topple, Launch. So that's like the other one. Launch is kind of something that's more later. You don't really get that too early. So basically the main thing you're going to focus on is break, topple, daze for now. There's no burst yet until you get, you know, a little further on in the game. Or until you just use this, this ability, which kind of is like burst. But yeah, you have break, starts combos, hit enemies in the side, does a little bit of bonus damage, has a low cooldown. It's pretty decent for damage because it's you know, it's more damage than your basic attack. But the main use case of this is shutdown, and this is, if you're gonna have any character on this class, this is like a must-have because it's just so essential. Like being able to have, you know, 2 or 3 things inflicting break just keeps getting you combos, and you know, it's just pure upside. All right, next we have Edge Thrust. This one, very low cooldown. The damage is like, you know, you get some bonus damage, but you get more bonus damage when you hit enemies from behind. So, you know, reducing aggro duration, or aggro values and aggro magnitude from yourself, like reducing the aggression you cause. You know, getting as much attention away from yourself as possible just to keep spamming Edge Thrust, hitting enemies in the back. Extremely useful. Also note that these 2 skills charge Overclock Buster. I'm going to go over that in a second. But you need to hit things in the side with Sword Strike and in the back with Edge Thrust to contribute to charging Overclock Buster, which is a huge attack that has big combo damage when you use it on a dazed enemy. But these 2 attacks charge it. Attacks like Ground Beat and Air Slash do not charge Overclock Buster. So something to consider when using a build. Alright, so let's go to Ground Beat. Ground Beat, pretty good base damage. Decent cooldown. It's not low, it's kind of like medium. It just is an AoE attack that hits pretty hard. For AoE, like if you're fighting multiple enemies, this is better than Air Slash. If you're fighting single targets or just like bosses that don't spawn things, Air Slash will outdamage it. There is like the cooldown is very slight. You're talking like a few seconds, like 3 seconds in this case. You only get a damage increase on Air Slash if you use it immediately after using an auto attack, causing a cancel. So cancel is just when you're auto attacking and then you use like a combat art in a short period of time after that. So pretty much immediately after your auto attack hits, use Air Slash, and that'll get you bonus damage. It does like slightly more damage than Ground Beat, so it's only really useful against single targets. If there's multiple things and they're kind of close to each other, Ground Beat's gonna outdamage it because it hits multiple things. So there's that. Okay, so we went over Edge Thrust, Sword Strike, Ground Beat, Air Slash, Shadow Eye. Alright, so Overclock Buster. Overclock Buster. This attack hits really hard. It hits even harder if you hit a dazed enemy. So you start the dazed combo, right? Like you started off with a break, and then a tank, especially lands, will use Bull Rush, which topples, and then usually Uni will use Myopic Screen to daze. And then when something's dazed, if you use Overclock Buster, it deals even more damage. So an example, I hit a boss with this ability, it hit like 1.4k damage, not dazed. When it was dazed, it hit like 3.2k. So you're talking like, you know, a little bit more than double damage when you hit a dazed foe. So sometimes it makes sense to delay using this if you can set up the combo, but that's not always the case. Sometimes you're better off just burning through it because then you can rebuild it up with edge thrust and sword strikes. So something to consider. Alright, so let's actually go fight a thing. We've gone over all of these little details. Let's just like show some stuff in action and like what you want to be doing. I think the game does a good job at teaching you where you want to be. Alright, let's get a single target. I don't want to be fighting 2 things at once. We can take them, but just for the sake of the video. Let's pull a guy. Just gonna run over here. Aw. Alright, whatever. We'll just go for it. We'll be fine because we're over leveled anyways in this area. Alright, so a few things about Noah. It's very simple, really. You don't want to move too much. You want to wait until your auto attack hits and then move if you're going to move. Because what will happen is you'll lose out on damage by moving and interrupting. Like if I can just keep moving, he'll never attack. So when you're moving, you're not attacking. And then for ground beat, it can be kind of finicky, but as long as things are kind of balled up around your tank, it'll hit them. So in this case, I didn't get an AoE. But you generally want to hit with your auto attacks. Auto attack into edge thrust. Auto attack into stun. I think it either resisted it there or I just wasn't completely to the side of it. But you want to get your sword strike in, your edge thrusts. And you can see that as I'm edge thrusting things, it's building up my overclock. But the general idea is that you want to wait for your auto attack to hit and then reposition, because you have to kind of rotate a lot as this class. You're constantly getting behind things or to the side of them. So here's a chain. So we probably can get the dazed hit if we can get an edge thrust, assuming they topple. All right, there's the topple. Waiting for the daze. There's the daze, and then here's a dazed overclock for 3.7k. So you can sequence it by timing. There's usually a few seconds of time before they're dazed, because like you have to consider your other characters have to use abilities, and sometimes they might be shut down, sometimes they might be too far away, sometimes it's on cooldown for whatever reason. All sorts of things can happen, so you can't assume it's going to pop off. And in some cases, you're better off just burning your overclock buster instead of waiting, because, you know, if you deal 1.4k damage and then build up another one by the time another chain is ready, that's just 1.4k damage you're out of now, right? And you could still get the chain off, you know, pretty easily, assuming you build it up in time. Which, you know, sometimes attacks miss too, right? Like, a daze could miss, and then you're just, like, sitting on overclock forever. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the basic Noah guide. It's just kind of, you know, it's just like a quick start guide to kind of get a feel for the character, go over the abilities. I like how my dudes are trying to run up here, but they can't. Just kind of go over some basic tactics for them to kind of show how to easily, you know, play as him at a basic level. Now, obviously, this is early game. Things get crazier as you go. They keep introducing more and more mechanics. So it's going to be, there's going to be, I'm going to make a guide for each stage of the game, like super early game, mid game, end game, and there might be guides in between there because there might be some stuff, but I'll probably do like early game like this, mid game, end game. I think that'll cover most of the things. But yeah, that's it for this one. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this useful. Drop a comment, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.